meeting to order. So pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Order to let the record reflect we have form of the board present. As far as the meeting minutes for last month, everyone had a chance to review those. Motion to approve. Motion. All those in favor? Aye. So moved. Supervisor's report. I emailed that to you guys. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it. I also printed it. When I was printing things, I printed one on really large paper. So you can see it. Just so you guys have that on the financial statement. The other thing I wanted to take a second, and also printed these off on, incidentally, really large paper. I had to add a column here. It's not so much important on the appropriations because obviously our taxes are already, but are not on revenue. But on the appropriations, I had to add columns. So a percentage of where we are in the budget. So that way we can look ahead and say, like I'm sure if we were to look at Sean's snow removal with the amount of snow we have, it's probably something that we should be looking at. Right? Something we should be looking at because the one thing, well not the one thing, but one of the key takeaways from the NIAP training that we all went to is, we wanted to make those adjustments before they turned to black box with NIAP, right? So, to me, the percentage is important if you guys don't find it that valuable. At my day job, I work on a percentage distribution all the time, so to me it makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, you still have the dollars and cents there also. So those are all there. It'll be a slight change on the monthly reports. But just so you understand what it is, since we really put a header. Other than that, I don't have too much to report in the supervisor's report. As far as the clerk's report, Jen had sent that out. I think Charlie Stout going to report for the board. Sean, do you want to report on that?
The only thing I got to is Joe's report.
Did you have to send it out?
I got it. I did.
Okay. I'll check it. I know he gives it to me to proofread, so I know I have to do it.
Actually, we got it like a week and a half ago.
Right.
Right. The only one I see in here is I got one Joe's report 23.
All right. It's just you.
It will be mine.
All right, I'll follow up. Whatever's happening.
Some things were too hard doing that. Some things were not. Just mechanical failures. Yeah. And I would say I've been stopping down from time to time this winter, and Sean is staying right on top of repairs needed. Things are getting turned around within 48 hours would be a lot. So I commend them for keeping the equipment up and working on that.
Sorry. For next month, I'll have, in a couple of weeks here, our contract is all temperature approval for the board designs for road work plan this summer. Okay. I'm getting that and everything like that along this month.
And we did deposit a couple of checks, one from the county, one from the state for the work that you guys.
Yeah, you should have returned it for November. We should have gotten from the state, almost like 35 grand for the month of November. And I got a sign that kind of stuff out of the county, I'll sign for December, everything like that. I'll have on the dates of how much for the month of December.
The only thing I would ask you to keep in mind is your quote material. The folks that are parked out back, I talked to them and they made a donation to fix some of the potholes out there. So we got an extra $600 for filling out there. So if we could fill some of them in and move that out while you guys are out of the potholes this spring. All right, just working into the schedule.
John, what's the company again, how bad using the space?
It's HRS or Richardson Sons, but I think it's HRS now.
So, when it comes to, like, you're up there with both graders and county roads, I don't know what you're doing on the state.
We did a little bit on stage, like with the grader, earlier last week, I believe I did a couple sections of 520, but then on 15A, there's that stuff.
Yeah.
Take it through that. But yeah.
Family does the excavator, how do you build that all together?
So,
By the hour?
yeah, by the hour, so for like the graders, the same, how we run the trucks. Like fill in another mile, take yeah, 3 miles, and then the piece of equipment that we're running, and then manhours and things like that. For the county, it's all built in, it's a set price that they're going to pay us each year.
So in this one, it would be better to run, I know you count the miles, because we need to short the snow fence, but you get paid by the snow fence, is it better to put up the snow fence and help mitigate the snow drifting?
Yeah.
Versus seeing it all one price kind of built in, you would maybe make it more of a snow.
I mean, even for instance, like, I mean, this year may not be just for every year, because the amount of snow that we've done. I mean, but you go around town, every sometimes it's full.
Oh,
Yeah, they're all full. But, like, the state, that's why I extended out on the state this year. And put like almost like 1,000 feet extra. Because we're going to pay that either way.
Right.
But, there's still your sections on the state road that you're still going to have to go get it, you know.
yeah, but I mean, on the county roads, you get paid by the foot, or how much?
Correct. County.
Yeah.
County is all part of it. Yeah. Yeah. So you could do no fault on that county road. You could take grader, mower road every day, stuff like that. It's not going to take that much for anything.
Right, I was thinking of it.
Yeah, I actually down at the county that I was like, so if we take the grader, the loader, the excavator out, I'm like, is that, am I charging the county like I would during the summertime when I'm all in the county?
Right.
Stuff like that.
Right.
I'm like, no, I'm charging the all in the way.
Yeah.
You know, the county. There'll be some years really good, you know. That's all I can keep it up. There's years where you make money on the state and lose money on the county, and then there's years where it's just not, it all depends on the county.
Do you have something, Mark?
Yeah, what's the status on this?
So the six-wheeler is in New York. It was delivered from the manufacturer in Texas. It was delivered to the Peterbilt location. I can't remember the exact town I was in, but it's like 2 hours south of us or so. And I was actually on the phone with Kevin, the salesman for Peterbilt last week. They're setting up the time to like swap the truck that's supposed to go down there from the location of Henrietta, swap the two, and then when they do swap the two, this one will go like look at it and everything like that, inspect it for ourselves for the first time. And then after that it'll go
To the plow?
yeah,
Plow manufacturer?
A little lot of it's right.
But that's cliche, that's right. No, we won't have that truck until October.
That's still what you're saying.
I'm not actually this year.
This coming year.
What's the balance you want?
The balance, still doing that truck, I think it's 125,000 for the body, plow, and salt service and all that.
Will you be spending money on
We'll use, it'll be George funding on the cash on the side and we'll use it for it. That's actually just took the budget from here, so we'll go things for that.
I guess the only thing I would add is, yeah, Tom and the guys done a great job. So Sean called me one time, on the sixth wheel of the existing, the year ago, when we talked about Scott Campbell, Scott's options, and things like that. I'm not sure where it is now. Thanks a lot, Scott, for stepping in there. Do appreciate that. Very much.
Yeah.
I thought about that, so I think maybe 2 weeks out, 2, 3 weeks out, we should have something for it.
Or whether to make it a more scalable unit. You're not going to get rid of it.
Yeah.
That's a good deal. Just fought for your welcome today.
So, will that truck, when will we probably need that excess equipment to be sold? What is your vision on that?
Probably April.
So, again, we can look at either or, Keechler sale in the spring or Auctions International.
Yeah.
And I know our last truck went through Auctions International.
Yeah, it did pretty
And
well.
we did very well with our 10-wheeler.
Yeah, I think that's probably our best bet, yeah.
You know, each one of the two follow.
And I would say yes, and that's why I would definitely recommend Auctions International, their website, and as far as they're drawing people from all over New York and New England. I've seen stuff from out of this area go as far as the Carolinas and stuff, so yeah, I would see that it's definitely at the time in our best interest again to go that direction, but what you're saying it's going to be about 12 weeks out, probably,
Yeah.
or 8 to 12.
Yeah, I haven't looked at, when auction sales are,
Auctions International is continuous. Yeah, and they give you about a 4-week window to bid on it.
But I think if we, listed it, mid-April time frame. And like I was actually talking to Todd about this, I'm still trying to figure out if we want to separate the truck
And the standard.
yeah. Standard itself on its own for Saturday frame.
Yeah, is that the same age as the truck or newer?
I believe it's the same age. And that's what Scott's working on currently is a new gear for inside of the motor. Because that part is, the entire manufacturer of the motor doesn't exist anymore. Can't get parts for it. And it was either, if Scott helps us out and try and make a new gear for it, or buy a whole new unit, which is like $2,000.
And what is that, 12 or 14 foot? What's
I think
that?
it's 12 foot.
All stainless.
All stainless, yeah. All except the motor itself.
Right, of course.
We're all salt.
Right.
Other than that, yeah.
We wanted the board of committees, I guess, Ron, you want to
As far as the library meeting, went through it on 20th of January. They had 4 clauses for the officers. They've got a grant for $600, they're pleased to think that they insured the same type of amendment. And, a librarian, Buckley, can spend about $200,000 without any approval. And, they talked about the truck in there, medical on that, and not sure how they want to handle that. They got people that are in there kind of being an at the end of their meeting and whatever they get going on. They don't, the library does not want any money, to talk about the electrical charging stations. They don't want to handle money to the stuff we need here. Apparently it's disgusting. So I guess they don't want to talk about the handle money. That's what's coming in. The internet service over there, this is one of the integrated systems. Anyway, it's going to cost $1,522 to install it, $55 a month. They have to get one mainline, fire line. And again, the charging stations, the library did not want to have anything to do with it. The maintenance of it, collecting of money, and we're going to work it out with the town and the board yourself, oversee it, collect the money, and we'll see the maintenance this time to time. Other than that, that's about it today. That's part of the Parks Commission. The main thing we were supposed to talk about was management planning, and got what was supposed to come to us didn't go. I think that's what.
Yeah, I can add a little bit to that. Of course, the roofs have been torn out, the gazebos down there. We're just waiting out for obviously good weather for the contractor to come in and get them done. With new cupolas on them. Those are all paid for by a private donation and the veterans, the VFW, I believe. If I got it right, the VFW, Bloomfield, American Legion, excuse me, Legion is paying for their big one, and ended up being a private donator for the small one, which was going to be on the festival, but there's money elsewhere now. Liaison for the ambulance. We had a meeting on the 14th. The chief report finished up the year. To let you know, you ought to be damn proud of your Lima ambulance. 557 calls for the year. 7 were all but done by them. They just missed 7 calls, is what I mean. Their response time, they are looking to get it better. Right now, they are under a 5-minute response time. 56 of those calls were in December. Meg has come up with a strategic plan going forward. God bless her. She's putting a lot of time into this. There is now leadership positions match the skill sets within her organization. And they are stressing safety and more caution and to be more respectful to each other within their own group. If people, we all work together as groups, if we can't respect each other, you're not going to get anything accomplished on a regular basis. They are not encouraging county takeover in EMS. Dominic, who's kind of her right-hand man there right now, he has a new checklist that they are following to ensure, again, on all the rigs, enough oxygen and other supplies stay on top of things. The only thing Livingston County has thrown back at Lima is when responding to hospital calls, timeliness and more accuracy. When they apply medication. And for that helps folks, knowing this for years, so when they go on a call, they can tell the hospital if the call came out at 1700 hours, 5 o'clock in the evening, and first, let's say for maybe somebody's having an allergic reaction, and that it was administered at 5:17, and then they can regulate. They know once that patient gets to the hospital, they know how effective that treatment has been in the ride from Lima to the end to say Strong or Highland, and they can administer and do better care of the patient once they get there. They used to alternate the rates. Now they're just going to one primary rate and a secondary crew. If the secondary crew is needed, they will be toned down. Some of the paid staffing is starting to go into place. 2 outside EMTs. Right now they have one working on Honey Falls and one that also works for Livingston County EMS. As far as their update, like the fire department, they need new stuff constantly. Their focus this year is on new AEDs. They are going to replace their old ones here. I asked, I know from last year or two, where are we with Narcan within our community? And it's not just drug overdoses. Again, it could be people having reactions that do need Narcan. There is still a cabinet for everybody to know by the pharmacy down here that they monitor, and they report to New York State, Livingston County, the usage and the amount of that being, if it's used on what basis. They check it regularly, I believe, correct, Chris? So,
That's Dave.
Go ahead.
That's Dave. Dave is amazing.
Okay.
He's the one that does the flight cars. So even if he doesn't have an ambulance, he has full bag. He just can't go wherever.
Great. They have a scheduling officer, Mitch, is that right? And they are requiring everybody to sign up at least 24 hours in advance for shifts. They, like everybody, they get more stuff thrown at them with paperwork and stuff. They've got new MBA forms. It's called the no-fault form. That they have to make sure people sign before they leave the scene. They have to get make, model, license plate. You would think that's on the police, and it might be, but it's now also on our ambulance to do that. Training, continuous training go on. Rig checks are going well. Yes. They are, again, they have to do reminders within their own groups and to, when they get done with calls, to make sure dial switches and stuff are turned off and put in the correct operating position. So they monitor themselves, they're policing themselves, they're doing a great job of doing it. They're very conscious up there of what's got to be done for the next call. They also talk, don't forget, they have their community room up there for the community to use when needed. And back on the AEDs are going to cost them about $1,800 a piece. EMT class, Joyce is going to be heading that up 21st of January and the 2nd of May is what I have from that. Another thing that they have to handle, and there's a lot of protocol, and I give them credit. They had a good open discussion about it. They have different classifications, Alpha, Charlie, Bravo, Delta, Echo levels, and one of the big things that they talked about was death on a call. That is something none of us want to think about, but it is reality to those people. And let me tell you, nobody should have to go through that, and you can definitely applaud them for what they have to put up with and the traumatic family experience, and they are told they have to use direct language. They can't beat around the bush. They can't go to the husband or the wife and say, I think he's going to be okay. Just get the pulse, he's not breathing, but he's going to be okay. They can't do that, folks. They have to deal with reality, and I applaud them for that they have to take that on and that job. And like I said, a lot of them non-paying jobs. So we've got a great staff up there, and hopefully they will continue to impress this community what they do up there. We then had, a week ago, we had a kind of an executive committee, and that was formed at the end of the year, and I will tell you, it was pretty much determined. They don't need an executive committee. They don't need people hanging over their heads and looking around every corner to make sure what they're doing. Megan's going to report to us. I believe, John, was it quarterly, possibly, is what we agreed on. And just give us some updates. Just tell us what's going on and keep the communication open that way. I know there was a lot of speculation what was going on there back in October, November, and a lot of it was blown out of proportion, I can tell you, after listening to everything now going on. And don't worry about our ambulance. They're going to serve you well. Fire department, truck's in pretty good shape right now. We've had a couple of small little failures that we're taking care of with the pumper and our squad truck. The new pumper should be 100%, our new to us pumper should be ready to go here within about 2 weeks. At that time, the old pumper, old 234, will go up for sale. It will go to the highest bidder. Speculation right now, in reality, is probably $15,000 or under for an old pumper truck like that. We'll probably go through, there is a couple of fire services that hit the trucks run, and that's where we'll start, at least. And then, if not, we might look at Auctions International, because you see a lot of fire trucks on Auctions International come up for sale. Other than that, our raffle will be coming up soon again with the fire department. I know the zoning board, I haven't heard anything, but I'm trying to think where we are with our gentleman up the road here.
Yeah, I met with them the other night when you guys were here with the Parks Commission.
Okay.
We had a meeting with Wayne and Sharon.
Yep.
And then they were setting up a meeting with the
But that's still going forward and looks positive.
Yeah.
And then what that is, folks, we have hopefully a new business coming to town very shortly, up where JP Motors was, up south here on 15A, and hopefully a welcome addition to the town, a mechanic shop, so, for vehicles, and young couple, and we wish them the best there. And that's pretty much all I have. Thank you.
Mine's not going to be as in-depth. Summer Rec is one of my liaisons. We have 95 members signed up for the entire summer. And then we also have, I believe, 57 campers for 1 week. So it's a pretty good turnout. I have been given information as far as if people want to be counselors, because now they're starting to take applications for that. Next is the Historical Society for me. They will be meeting later this week via Zoom call, so I can give an update following that. They've been on a hiatus as everybody is snowbirds, basically, from the Historical Society. And then finally Saturday we will be having a community meeting again. Me and Erica are the two that are liaisoning a community meeting that meets at the Lima Diner. We're asking for $15 and you get a breakfast for that. We're hoping thing to eat at the Lima Diner to make Jim some more money. That was part of the reason that we met there, and it hasn't been working out where anybody really spent any kind of money. So we're asking for a $15 donation for breakfast. I think it's eggs, sausage, and some kind of hash brown. And I think that's everything. Cemetery for snow covered.
The only thing I will add for the Historical Society, we have it's related to this, our pumpkin seed kickoff this year is going to be May 2nd here at Town Hall. And we are having a coloring contest for kids that will be judged that day by the community. And last year it seemed to work out well. We chose to partner with one of our organizations in town that has helped us down to the festival. And last year it was Friends of the Library. And this year it is going to be the Historical Society. After seeing they never had a lot of funds, we thought we have chosen them this year. And they will be in full force that day here. So come out, hopefully support us and the Historical Society both. Raise some money for them that day.
The Ed Committee hasn't had a meeting since our last town meeting. However, on the 28th of January, there was a meeting in the county there in Geneseo. A man named Jake Clapper from Noblehurst Farms came, did a presentation on economic impact of agriculture in this area, as well as discuss challenges and opportunities for farmers. They are going to be putting that up on YouTube, and so I've requested that once they have that link, they send it on to me so that I can pass it on to our ag board and as well as you guys. I've also put in a call to Jake Kelly at the county. He's kind of spearheading the updates on the county ag planning board. He's looking for town planning board input on that. Lima is one of a few towns that actually has an ag board. So once he gets back to me, I'll touch base with Mike and we'll find out if we want to invite Jay to a meeting coming up, and then, or if not, we can just provide them with whatever information they're looking for. Yeah.
I was talking to Jeff Ball and Tim Sheepman over in West Bloomfield, the supervisor, and Jeff was the highway superintendent. And just talking back and forth with them, and they talked about the solar deal. And I told them to get in the ag committee and kind of they throw ideas to the board and kind of go from there. And they would like to maybe come over when the ag committee meets and or the board meets and you're doing this discussion about solar.
Okay.
On that, also, if you could, for the ag board, get the info form, I told it's online, both Sparta and Ocean have very good detailed recommendations for solar in both towns, with Sparta being the most recent in language within the last year. And I'm told those were both those were both online too. So as we studied 4 or 5 months ago, we had a 75-page thing from Avon we all had to study. I told these are not quite that in depth, but pretty darn, I wouldn't use the word stringent, but they're pretty tough in their words on what they want and not want to see in their town. I recommend you get both of them too, besides that last one.
So John and I have been kind of talking about our solar legislation, and we have looked at add-ons again. And we also met a gentleman down in Corning when we went for the new electee training, and he was kind enough to share their legislation with us. So add-ons, solar, it's hard on policy as far as what these solar farms are allowed to do, whereas the gentleman from Corning, who we met in Corning, their plan is hard. They're a little bit more lenient on policy and what the restrictions are as far as solar farms. But the thing is, with the state can overthrow town legislation if we're too strict. So they clamp down on monetary responsibility of these solar farms and the solar companies. So John and I have kind of been trying to find the best of both worlds, looking at those two. And
One of the main misreading that he just wanted a dead skeleton of a solar farm. He wants some kind of somebody responsible for it.
Yeah, the plan that we got from the town better, they basically put it in a escrow or bond that the town can pull out of, and it sits there the entire time. It's 125% of the estimated decommissioning cost, and then it gets adjusted for inflation every 5 years. Yeah, so, that way if they skip town, we have that money that we can pull from, essentially bond.
And that's a good thing because a lot of times, whatever company initiates the bill, as soon as you talk about the original, they sell.
It's escrow.
So then the next guy will pay it for a few years and then he sells. So then down the road, nobody wants to go after it.
So they have it where those burdens carry no matter, if it sells. I thought there was a lot of good information there that wasn't necessarily addressed in the add-on room. So we've shared that kind of back and forth. I've shared it with Jim. Maybe there's a happy medium between the two, and then then we'll get a committee together and really go through it at a higher level of detail. But I think having a good starting point or a launch point, before we go into that, save a little bit of time.
Yeah, and the guys who they don't want to see it go out with farmland, but if there's, go out with scrub ground or something like that, and somebody wants to put it on there. And again, if we were to say, only kilowatts level, you can have
Yeah, when it gets to the huge, large scale stuff, we have a harder time. Even on the smaller ones, if it's unreasonably burdensome, they can override the town law.
Right.
So that's the fine line. They don't define what unreasonably burdensome means. It's just whatever court can get taken to if they decide that it's unreasonably burdensome.
Right.
But I think having ones that have been put in place and reviewed, not only by our attorney, the guy that gave us his was from the town of veteran, that went through their Idaho attorney in Rochester, So it's been viewed on different legal fronts with different opinions, right? So I think it's good to get those other inputs, they say, pull those ones too, right? And get a comprehensive answer. We're September is the moratorium end, right? So, I didn't want to wait until August to start talking about it. So that's kind of where we're at with it right now. Very early developmental kind of stuff. We've got all the information that Mark shared with us too. So putting all that together is something that's
yeah, solar is definitely something we want to address and not together. So long and short is it's in the works.
Even when we looked at that, it's pretty strict, but it's still building, right? So the developers don't find it that bad, right? So,
So just if we can find ways, to maybe, be a deterrent for these solar companies on a financial level, but also if they're committed to it, if we can make some money out of it, but also put safeguards in there for landowners and for the town. As far as the town court, we began the process of moving Carroll towards the new more convenient payroll period. I think the highway guys are going to be on the same page, right? We reached out to the folks responsible for the security grant. They're going to be making approvals and sending out notifications on March 6th whether or not we get approved for that security grant. We've addressed the shoveling issue. We've hired, or are in the works of hiring a new shoveler to keep the entrances to the town court open and taken care of, so we have wheelchair accessibility. And then Carolyn reached out to me. There's a leak. It's not active. There was water damage at one point on the window on the west side of the building. Everything's dry right now, but you can see where at one point, whether it was one of the once in the century rains we had back in the spring, a fair amount of water got in there. So I've talked to them, and then we're going to try to look at it and see if it's the window that needs to be replaced or it just needs to be re-watered, resealed once the weather breaks. But it's not an immediate need right now for additional water damage. And then Be Well. My big takeaway from Be Well is they've got a lot of good ideas. They're just looking for volunteers to spearhead said activities, as well as somebody to take kind of the lead on advertising and marketing of the events. So if there's anybody in the audience tonight, anybody watching at home that's interested or has a background in marketing or advertising or Be Well activities, please feel free to reach out to me or Brian Smith is the president of Be Well. Hopefully, take the good ideas that are being discussed and actually
I'll just talk briefly on the crossroads. I missed the last meeting. I was not feeling well, so I didn't make it, but I do know that they're still looking for extra volunteers. Just like any organization that, many hands make light work. They're, down to a few at this point. I think it's a great festival. I think everybody enjoys it. It's here, so even if you have only 5 minutes to help them out, it's worthwhile. Golden Acres, we met them again today. In fact, I got worried that keeps me on track on what exactly that's happening and reached out to me the day before. So, that was good. I think you guys enjoyed the dinner over at the Lima Diner was this month, and then next month it's where? Pioneer. So, it's good. It's a good opportunity to get with those groups and they seem to enjoy. Give somebody something to do.
Like their restaurant is really good,
Right? They do let me in, even though I'm not 55. They made a special. They do make me sit at the little kids table, but so that's kind of it on the committees. Old business. Just kind of circle back, and we talked a little bit last month about the library insurance and the back charges and how we want to open that up. I actually spoke to the guys down in Corning that were at the comptroller's office, and their recommendation was to, leave well enough alone. It's been paid, those years have been closed. If you open that up, then there's a potential issue. So I guess as long as it's okay with the board, I think we let that kind of sleep and dog lie.
I believe we already did voted on it, didn't we? Yeah. And we're going forward here with the library.
Yeah, the only thing we have to talk about, and the only thing we need to talk about potentially, and you don't have to do it right now, but as we get into the budget here next year, I would say we treat that the same as every other building. The town just pays it, we'll take that out of their budget. I think that's the easiest and cleanest way, but we can, get into that more as we get into the budget year for next year.
As far as the charging station towards the library, are we going to sit down and discuss what we're going to do for charge?
Yeah,
Your phone.
So the other thing, I don't know, I got an email, someone else got an email, I don't know who it was, the salt shed grant, we didn't get that this year either. So, glad you guys don't want it, we're in good shape.
Sean, how's it working out well for you, logistically wise, the shed, the salt?
We did it all. We've had it over 15 days now. That's still good. Probably about 180 tons, I think.
Seems to be a common problem, so.
Well, they said they are short, but can,
Yeah, I think it was last Wednesday, we ended up hauling like 290 tons, and that whole stretch will really just keep them in there, technically, and take road,
well, that's what I want to tell you, is the old adage is smart salting requires smart driving. And if you guys notice, you can say, well, wait a minute, some of the Lima roads have got snow on. Absolutely. Drive accordingly, people. But I tell you what they are doing, the intersections on both sides, I would say 75 feet, maybe somewhere in there, 50, at least, it's clear. And that is very important because as people try to cross the main roads here, 520 and 15A, instead of spinning their tires on ice and snow, it's bare pavement. Those guys have done a great job monitoring the salt usage with what little they're getting this year. And that goes for all the towns around us. And done a good job, smart job salting. Thank you.
Siemens update, so,
Last time around, the salt shed grant, they said it was lost because we already got a salt shed. Did they say anything about why we lost this time?
did not.
Did anybody ask?
I would assume that, so it goes off.
I did set up a meeting with them to talk about it, but it hasn't been set up. I think it's tomorrow, actually.
Well, yeah, they didn't want to because this is where it's going after.
Right, no, understood, yep, yeah. But yeah, we got the letter, email that said we weren't successful, doesn't give a lot of details. But it did give you a contact and a person to ask to go through it. And we'll see how we score. If we can score any better, then I don't know, right? What we got probably gonna last us now for a while, maybe we just sit with what we got.
I will tell you, Mark, now obviously this is town and you know that, but obvious. But our friends at the village, if you look at the village salt shed, that isn't far behind, quite honestly. So, see how they score and what they're going to do in the next year or two, but they're going to have to address it. Not that I know of, but you would have to ask the village, but I'm just saying going forward, theirs wasn't any better, and it's going to be probably within 2 years they're going to have to do something, if not next year.
Siemens update, so the chargers over at the library are on. They can be used. Thanks to Chris and John, I reached out to them and said, you guys want to go over there and do a visit? John was wild, and we had to have a electric car.
John did a good video, I watched it, explaining everything.
So those are up and running. The original intent was for that, since there's only 1 meter there, for that to all kind of go, the expense and the revenue to all go to the library. I asked Jim to just draw up an agreement, like I kind of mentioned earlier in the town and village meeting. I think having something we can reference back to that's in writing 10 years from now is a good thing. They didn't want that responsibility of the maintenance or having to deal with that, so which is fine. So that's going to come back, to the town. We'll control that. I did send over the information to the company that has the backend software. That guy was on vacation, of course, last week, so I still don't have access to that necessarily yet. But when I do, maybe we can get together, you and I, Ron, and I'll run you through it. There's a lot of good information there you can put in. Actually, and I asked Terry for it, the kilowatt hour charge that they pay National Grid, you can enter that in there. So that way, obviously if people are using it, it offset, their bill, and we'll have to try to get them whole on that end. I thought it was a good opportunity for extra revenue for the library, especially with the solar charger is going to be on that roof to offset their electric bill. It's the library board's decision. They didn't want to have to manage that, and it's kind of outside the scope of the library. 100% agree it is. So we'll manage it and we'll work with them accordingly. It was an amicable conversation. Right? I'm not trying to force it down anybody's throat. If they don't want to do it, they don't want to do it. And we'll do it. The ADA compliance, I know the CPL structural engineer was here today. they gotta put together some basically engineer for construction drawings, for some work here to bring this restroom down to floor level, and then I think there's some structural upgrades. There's a pillar that was removed at some point, kind of back behind where Jennifer's offices that will support that. So they're going to hit that, and then, some improvements there. I know there was a lot more in the original drawings that went to the USDA for the grant part. But, obviously there's just not enough money to do all that, so I didn't want to pay them to engineer all that, and we can't do anything. So they have to complete that, and then Stevens is going to walk the contractors through, answer some questions, get some quotes, and then we can move forward with that hopefully at this winter. So that's kind of where that stands. There is a walkthrough with the USDA next week to look at the heating system, and some of that they'll start releasing some of the grant funds, so they can get. Yep, I'll get to that. Actually, we're still in the old one. Water District 5 was brought up last meeting about the James Road transmission. I did meet with Jason and Eric to kind of talk through that. My suggestion would be that we have, I think we're leaving tonight or tomorrow. I'm leaving Friday. I think it would be better to have a public work session and just kind of go through that. There's not a substantial, just a high-level overview. There's not a substantial savings on the engineer's estimate to build it. None of the folks that we're running in front of are automatically now in the district. Only if they were to choose to connect, would they be added to the water district? But there is a long-term savings on the maintenance without a pump station. And so that's kind of where it really boils down to.
Did they figure out maybe coming down the same versus 5 to 20 in the pump station, or they just kind of up in the air?
That's up to us. That's up to the town board to make that decision if we want to make that adjustment or how we want to handle that. The only suggestion when I say that we should have a work session and kind of talk about it is there's some, if we're going to put it out on the RFP as an alternate option, we can do that. Having bid the base bid as it was voted on as a group and then the alternate. So we have those two numbers. But to not delay anything, we should do the permitting and the environmental surveys and that kind of stuff for that now. So that way if we end up going with that in the future, they're not starting to build and then they're going to have to wait for that. So those are kind of the decisions that we need to make. But I think it's better to have that kind of work session meeting to go through it all, and then we can focus on that with them in the room.
So my take on that, I applaud Mark for bringing it up at the last meeting, but now being on here 2 years, it would have been nice that the people of Lima and this board at that time knew about that as an alternate choice and what to do. And the other thing to keep in mind, it did go to a vote of the people. And if it goes that way, what are your plans on serving those people? Because those people were not given a choice to vote either yes or no on the project. So I just keep that in mind.
Correct. I raise those concerns for sure.
And do we have to have another referendum vote?
We would not.
No. That's the only thing I'm asking. Legal, I want to make sure everything is done legally. I's dotted, T's crossed if we're going to go forward.
The answer change that our thought, okay? The district is not going to change. Right. People already know what they're doing.
As it was laid out, so voted out the way it was laid out.
The folks if this runs this way, the folks, they didn't vote on the water district per se, but they also aren't in the water district. Unless they voluntarily choose to. So they didn't vote on the district necessarily, but they do get to vote on whether they want to pay for it or not, by either agreeing to hook up your water or not. If they don't hook up, they don't pay.
It's a transmission line, so you're taking a transmission line that would be from Clay Street to Dorn.
Yep.
Or a pump station. If it turns out to be a financial benefit for a transmission line, we're just moving a transmission line to Chase Road and Chase. So it's still a transmission line.
But they can hook up.
They can hook up to it. They have that option.
It's probably no different on that high level of running a power line down the road, right? You know, it doesn't really affect it too much, but.
Does the Chase Road people get hydrants?
Yeah, we have, I can sort of that, it's a transmission line.
What do you do now? So,
Yeah.
good thing is that.
Yeah, so, but I guess what I was saying is, I think we should have a work session. We should make sure that those folks that potentially could be affected, that we reach out to them and let them know that we're going to have that work session. You know, now they can get their answers straight from CPL, straight from Livingston County, straight from the county. So there's no surprises. You know, that's what I think we should do. And that's my recommendation.
When you talk to Jason and Jared, if we were to do like environmental studies and they have a hard time just to know
Yeah.
these are viable options, do they know what the cost would be, or do they have any idea what the cost would be to do those studies?
They do. They have a pretty good idea. Yeah. I don't remember the number. But it's based on where they've done it in the whole rest of the district, they can figure it out. Yeah. And get us at least a ballpark.
I'm saying, based on the last cost estimate, the area, there's still a $1.5 million opportunity to spend. Okay, so everything budget, finance, engineering costs, infrastructure, there's still $1.5 million opportunity.
On an engineer's estimate. Not on a
Now, if they could come down 520, they're still doing environmental study and all that, so what difference does it make if you're paying there or paying down at James Road, right? And going.
Correct. I mean, but they're still going to come down 5 and 20. They're just not going to go as far. Because they still have to come through the village, right? They're not going to go for it. I have the maps. It wasn't even print them out. It's still going to come through 5 and 20 to feed the village. It's just not going to go from...
One at that right here.
It is basically your tree, essentially. Correct. Yes. It would stop basically your tree, I think, what I got on that.
If you want to 5 residents that are cleaning the debt service, if this turns out to be a financial, viable solution, we say that long-term maintenance costs.
Right. That's what it's saying.
Right, so that means the water bills, the increases will be controlled because they're not going to be what is called, when the that generator fail. And when will that happen? So big picture, it seems like a viable option.
It definitely is a viable option, and I asked the question obviously because I'm an inquisitive person. Well, if that's the way you wanted it, why didn't we put it that way the first time? Right?
It was brought up in one of the engineers' original law. It wasn't on.
Sure. And
It wasn't something that was started, but at the end of the day, because of going through the village, that seems like a good option. We should follow that. Okay? And I don't think anybody really wants to do that law.
the way they described it to me, Mark, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, when you guys did the drive-through, that's when this thing really became
100%.
They felt viable in November.
When you're talking about the drive-through and looking and go, wait a minute.
There's enough pressure coming out of the local tank to serve all of one road. So why do you lose all that energy by putting into this little business pressure It doesn't make sense.
So anyway, we're not going to solve that today. What I recommend is we all get together and figure out a date that works, set up a work session, have CPL, have Livingston County here. It wouldn't be necessarily open for public comment usually in a work session, but at least everyone would be aware of kind of where the thought processes are, and then we can make a decision. Do we want to do the environmental stuff now? Do we want to put it out as an alternate on the RFP? I tend to disagree with Eric when he says it doesn't matter where you build it all costs the same. As a guy that's not built water districts, but done underground construction, that's not true. That's why he says it's an engineer's estimate, right? So I think maybe the quote comes back and it's not viable within within his quote, right? And then we move forward, with whatever, but, and I think in his estimate that he showed me, I think it was maybe $10,000 or $50,000. I mean, it was pretty insignificant on the cost of the build. It's the long-term maintenance that Scott mentioned, that's where the savings really is for the folks that are going to be in the watershed, right? So, as much as we can say Mark should have put that in there, I'm just picking up because you're here, right? But we could say that Mark should have put that in there from the beginning. Let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? And look at what's good for the entire, town of Lima. And I think that's what we have to look at, the entire residents of Water District 5. So, that's what I have to say on that. I think that's the go forward, maybe in March, maybe in the end of February, Steve, I'm not sure when we get back. Like last week of February, when I come in, whatever. Let me know. I know you're leaving town, and I know you're leaving town. So we just have to coordinate schedules and when it's all going to work out. I don't think it's really good.
There's part of the law, once you set them, you have to
Sure.
Yep. And then once you do that, then you have to make a decision. If you don't advertise, then you have a meeting, then you got to know.
Sure. Yeah.
Just to say meetings. It's something to consider, check with Jim on people.
Yeah, I just want to have the work session meeting so we can talk, focus just on that, and we're not trying to do other things when I'm not going to talk. Because obviously it's a subject that people want to know about and want to be informed, and I think we can do a good job of doing it that way. New business wise, we had the elevator repaired, obviously, and we have in that process, our elevator is 5 years old, there's testing requirements that need to be done. Flower City Elevator gave us a proposal to do that. I think I distributed it. If not, I haven't. And then there's also like an ongoing maintenance agreement going forward that to get caught up on our testing, we have to pay that. But going forward, the testing is included in that maintenance agreement. So my thought was to reach back out to them and see if we could get, pay less the first year of the maintenance agreement. We already have to pay for the testing the whole time. But something we can talk about and review, but I think there is value in having someone that does that, right?
You were saying that there was some components while being located that should have been there and whatever there.
So down in the pit, essentially, there's supposed to be something, and I don't know whether that catches the excess oil and fluids. And there wasn't, so our pit was full. They cleaned it up and put a catch basin essentially in there. So that was what they did when they came out.
It almost sounded like something like there was a T-boat or something that was leaking more than it should.
Yeah, I don't exactly know where the oil comes from. I didn't ask that question. But I think a lot of it's from lubricating the cables and that kind of stuff. And then there's just a catch basin underneath it. That's kind of my basic understanding of it. So they did clean that up when they were here. We got it operational and put that in. But yeah, so they did a pretty decent job. They were very responsive. They were
They got it right back to you.
Came in and diagnosed that it wasn't the entire sensor system. It was just a module. They took a while to just do our test and all that work. That part was $100 as opposed to $750. So essentially we got the catch basin and the oil cleaned up and the elevator running for what it would have cost us to do just that one repair. So they're a relatively new company, so they're kind of on the edge of, they're not really out of Rochester, they're on the edge of Monroe and Wayne County. Jen dealt with them more than I did. She said they're very pleasant to come in and work with, so I think that's something we can look at, and we may not have to make a decision on it tonight, but it's still almost $3,000 agreement, right? So where are we going to take that money and pay for it, right? The only other thing that we kind of had, and we talked about it in the organization meeting, is doing policy reviews. I think it's good for myself and the other two new members, and then, those that have been existing. I gave you guys a copy of the ethics code. We're not going to read it tonight. Consider it takeaway homework. What we have is compliant with the state. It's a matter of do we feel any need to make improvements on it or not. We can talk about that next month. But I think it's good for us to go through our policies and we all understand what they are. On the ethics board itself, we have some vacancies. The way that that's set up is, you can only have so many members of each political party. So there is a need for two Democratic members, probably the Democratic committee to be on there. And then there's also, so there's 3 openings, right? And one can be in either party or an independent.
Should we let her know what the actual ethics board is? Just for clarity, because I think some people out there in the town.
Well, sure, yeah, we can. I mean, the ethics board really, we can change it next month, but overall, it's more about, I guess, a high-level business ethics is, conflict of interest, that kind of thing. It's not necessarily a code of conduct and how you act out in the public, and that kind of gets confusing with people. It's not, we couldn't revise this law and make it that way. I don't really have any interest in personally doing that and policing it. I think everyone here is, an adult and should know how to act in public.
But it's meant for the board and the employees of the town of Lima.
Correct, yep.
So it's intended for
sure.
correct.
I do think, I read this thing, I do think there's an opportunity there to make an adjustment that anybody that's appointed to the board should attend a town board approved training for what the ethics board is. And then, if you've got on board, then maybe repeat it every couple of years or something, just as a refresher. I think there's potentially value in that. But, again, it's just something that we can look at, get your thoughts and inputs on it. It hasn't been revised in a while. Pay no attention to the date on there. That's just the date that I printed it. So, yeah. So that's where, before we make any changes to it, obviously we're going to get Jim's report as well. But I think, and maybe the decision from the board is we don't make any changes. That's fine, right? But at least you all have the opportunity to know what it is and how it applies and go forward.
So kind of a side note to that, and I think it's gone by the wayside a little bit, but I think it's required. I know through my work in the fire department, I had to do the New York State sexual harassment training every year. And Lori, I've got my certificate to get to you, but what about, are we required as a board? We do.
Yeah.
Is there a way to find out a link then for the rest of the board?
Yeah, I think so, and I think time out.
Yeah.
When I was on the board, I took the sexual harassment test.
I also happen to be married to an HR professional, so.
So we're keeping in sync with everything we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, go ahead.
In the past, I'm sure if you've had to do it for your current job, I've had to do it for my other job. If we provide a certification that we've completed it,
It's the same for everybody. So
so as long as we've done it within this year, we're covered.
I just don't
If we
think
just show
you're
proof
wrong,
that,
so.
if we just show proof that we
I'll get you a copy of mine here in a little bit. Yeah, it's online.
So, yeah. The other thing, I just want to talk to the board about, I got you all one of these.
Yeah, that's Nancy, thank you.
So, I looked at kind of our letterheads and our presentations that kind of went out, and they were just plain, right? They were black letters on white paper. Nothing that was signature or anything. I'm not looking to adopt the town seal and go through the law and all that. Kind of came up with a logo. I think it's, obviously I did, I think it's pretty good, right? So I spent some money out of my own pocket to put these together as some examples, so you guys can look. I've also designed a letterhead that has it on there. I think it gives it a little more appeal when we're going out to the public. it makes the town look, slightly better. Yeah, so, I did some business, I did a lot of samples, but, I did some business cards with it. I did some other things. And I guess I'm asking as the board approval to use it.
Yeah. I think it looks good, you've got the product, though.
Just the front, Bill, just the seal on the front of the book. Hey, so don't look at all my dirty messages in here. Come on.
You got the truck coming out there, you got the church. Yeah.
I made the motion to adopt the new law.
Second?
You lost Steve Ryan.
Oh, no, technically. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? So, all right, 4 to Steve.
Yeah.
We can ask him to back in. But yeah, I think, like the letterhead, I think looks, or you've seen it, right? Yeah, I think it looks pretty nice with that in the center. Try to match it up with the flag downstairs. I mean, that's all we have is the town, the flag, right? Excellent. So, yeah, it's a minor thing, but if you can spruce things up at a little bit of charge and a little bit of my time to do it, I think it's worthwhile. So,
I got it for now. Mark, you were working on the 5 and 20 Gordon Road Greg Street intersection. We're, and I was just talking to Sean about it. Is there any other road that's kind of open, or was helping with that?
Sarah Warren.
Any idea what that is at this point? Does somebody here on the board got to pick that up and run with it at this point? Yeah.
The next step is to really reach out to the
You would send a letter and stuff like that, correct? Already. Yeah, and what did you get back out of that? Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you've seen the intersection of the building on 4 up this week, and yeah, DOT didn't even want to do anything about that. They wanted to say that wasn't their issue, that it's not their part of their right of way. Well, technically, it's the state's, but they're going to say for as long as possible that it's not theirs to deal with. And that's just a little bit of paper on the intersection. Not even the fire or reconstruction or, what's that? We're going to get back on it this week, but, yeah.
So, Mark, was there certain criteria that needed to happen to make, even think about making a change on that?
My personal background was traffic studies and such. There's a lot of things that go into the analysis of what should be done. But public coordinates a lot to do it. So the other duty is public coordinates. Getting a petition, getting people to do the assigned petition, walking into DFP. We have people that die like cows, but if we have 20 people dying there, there's 80 points, there's just one guy, right? It doesn't matter. We got to keep hammering on the issue. Just put a sign there what they did. They got to change. It's like they take that grade out about these spots and lower it out so you can see through the picture.
Right.
You have a cause to possible is it
Yeah. Paul caught one of their potholes that pops up wouldn't go swimming in that, you may never see the surface again. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a bad yeah, it's bad base. Like, we've filled the holes before, the state and the county, well, actually, not something here, the state hasn't done anything, but the county came in last year and filled those holes in, and we had filled them, but if you're gonna have bad base on the road, then it's always gonna continue to pop out, no matter how much. Yeah, you have to dig it out, and, you know, put in some base for it, and everything like that. We'll see if the state does it.
On the abstracts, you guys, can we do it?
Yep.
Motion to approve.
Motion.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Open up public comment. Not we didn't allow that in the course of the meeting, but. Well, thank you for allowing. What's that? Thank you for allowing. No, that's good. Anybody have anything else?
Thanks for being here to be a part of it, right? Thank you.
Well, that's a good grasp for town meeting.
And probably should enter executive session.
Town board members.
Oh, town board.
Just real quick, I'll throw my part out here. Winter may be hopefully over, the downhill side of it, but I'm sure we'll probably get a little more snow. But if you see a hydrant, help the fire department out. It's not, we have not a lot of manpower to go out and do it. Last week ago Sunday, I got out there and I had some time and I felt my oats that day. I did 13 hydrants, everything south of the 5 and 20 intersection here. And a lot of them did get done. Thank you to the people or, neighbors that did it and took charge of adopting the old thing. We used to adopt a hydrant years ago, it was called. And we, as a fire department, would appreciate a total of 3x3. That is so we can get in there with the hoses and our hydrant cords if we have to hook. And unfortunately, in the county, there's been some bad fires the last couple of days. We talked about Noblehurst. They had a real bad fire the other night. Lost 2 trucks, a tractor, and a large building at their farm. And of course, that's out the country, but boy,
They had a fire hydrant there that was either covered or froze.
yeah, that's what I heard. There were hydrants out there out in Linwood, York. But yeah, you have to see if we get some more snows. Just keep an eye on it. Help your neighbors out. Help yourself out. And keep those hydrants clean. That's my big pitch for tonight for the fire department.
Steve, when I get a hydrant on my property,
I'll cut, yeah, let me know. Thank you.
I'll send down
If you look at the question here, Sean's asking, do we have them marked? So none of them were buried. Someone tried to tell me that they were completely buried. No, you could see the hydrants, but there was a foot and a half of snow around them. Some of them do have reflectors on. That is something I am bringing up at the exec board meeting, or I'll get with Benji. We need to maybe do a better job. What it was years ago we took a piece of metal regrot or whatever, bent it so it would go around the hydrant gate, and it had a reflective emblem on it. And we're going to probably review all that now after. It's been gone a long time. It's one of these things. Out of sight, out of mind, not so-called important, but it is important. One day you need it out of the year or whatever. One day out of the winter.
And I know there is one there.
Okay.
And I was like, we can get no idea what it is.
Okay. Yeah.
Because we've already cleared out.
We're gonna work on that, the fire department, Benji, and see if we can get better markers for both you and for us to know where they are at. Yep, thank you. Yes, the town and village definitely has a map, and the fire department has a map of where all the hydrants are, yes. So we know where they're at. It's just when you get instances like this winter,
Well, yeah, we got more snow this winter than we had.
then they had the last fires.
And together.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, something to work on, keep finding out where we can be better.
I gotta make a motion to enter executive session, talk about personnel.
Second.
Make a motion to adjourn the regular meeting. All right, thank you, folks.